going to be able to attend. Not everybody's going to be able to attend every session. So we want to make sure that we're mindful of that and that we're as transparent as possible with those who couldn't attend. So we will continue to share the decks and those recordings with the collective. All right, for anybody who just joining, please open up that poll everywhere. We're going to use that throughout today's session. And Emily, if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next page. All right, what are we talking about today? Today is really meant as taking an opportunity to kick things off. We know that this is the first PATH CPI collaborative session. My name is Denise Denoto, and I am from Intrepid Ascent. We'll spend a little bit more time doing some introductions, but it's my voice that you're going to hear today, as well as Sokim. Sokim, maybe wave your hand in the air. So you'll hear from Sokim and I today. We'll also introduce you, I think in the next slide or two, to the rest of the Intrepid team. We'll spend some time with those introductions and we'll go through our PATH CPI collective overview. I know this is really like edge of your seat stuff for a Friday. But we'll go through some general housekeeping, meeting logistics, maybe answer any questions that folks have been having with registration, hopefully clear up any confusion. We're going to brainstorm some potential opportunities for us as a collaborative. We're going to talk about next steps, what sort of happening in the February meeting, what work and what communications you're going to get from us between now and February. So really being as clear as possible about what information you're going to get from us and what we're going to be looking to accomplish between now and February. We're also going to then hand things over to Lisa, who was kind enough to let us take this time slot today, Lisa at Transform Health, who will go through some announcements, previously identified announcements for the IPP roundtable. And Emily, I'm going to try and continue to admit people so that you can advance the slides. All right, meeting logistics, roll call for future meetings. We'll do a shout out at the beginning of the meeting that we're recording. We'll always announce that at the beginning of the meeting. We're also going to ask you to enter your name and your organization's name in the chat. You don't have to worry about any of this stuff today, but it'll be sort of standard way that we start the beginning of all of our future meetings. We're also going to ask you to include your organization's name if you can in your Zoom window. Your name and your organization's name is going to be really helpful in future meetings, especially as we get into breakout sessions. If you have any needs for closed captioning or transcripts, let us know that in the chat. We'll make sure that we work with you on those features and that you have access to what you need in order for you to have a good experience in these sessions. I know everybody says this. We'd love to see your faces. It is not required, but it's strongly encouraged. We know that for anybody not on screen, you're probably multitasking. For anybody on screen, you're also probably multitasking. But we really, really love to see your faces. So, food for thought, next session. One of the things that we'll do as an icebreaker is we're going to judge the best virtual background. So get ready, next session in February, we're going to judge the best virtual background. I know it seems silly, but we're all not together at a table and we've got to try and definitely engage as much as possible. I think this is a fun one, mostly because it's challenging for me on Zoom from a technology standpoint to enter a virtual background. Anyways, all right, next slide. There's a little bit of a delay. Sorry about that. We wanted to kick things off the right way with an official welcome. We know that San Diego is a unique region, unique in that we think that you all are probably leaps and bounds ahead of any other county, and that we are going to be the best path CPI collaborative ever. But in all, and kidding aside, we really are excited to be part of this work with you all. We wanted to officially welcome you to the Path CPI, and we wanted to share our commitment in this collaborative and the process, and what it means to really be part of something. I know that it's cheesy, but there really is no I in team. The best communities and collaboratives that come together are the ones like San Diego, who have such a robust ecosystem of meetings and different collaboratives already happening. And so we're really excited to be a part of advancing that picture, and really being as useful to you all as possible in that process. So cheesy as it is, we're going to ask you all for your thoughts on what collaboration means to you. So the next poll is what collaboration means to you. I may pick on a member of our team. So Kim, what does collaboration mean to you?
Hi, everyone. So collaboration to me is bringing communities together and community members together who have an overarching goal and an alignment in what they want to achieve together, and having challenging conversations, but all with the same intention and compassion in mind to really, make improvements in a shared goal. And in this case, it's the quality of life and the care that's being delivered to the members of our community. So long answer, but I see a lot of different responses.
I thank you for being such a good sport and letting me call you out on the spot. I think what I love to see here in this word cloud is some really similar responses. So I think we're already sort of thinking about what it means to work together, and sharing with regards to a common goal. So really excited to make this take shape and continued collaboration through the Path CPI. All right, we are going to go ahead to the next slide. And we're going to talk to you a little bit more about who we are. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We have a link here for Intrepid Ascent. So for those of you who aren't familiar with our organization and you're curious about who we are, we have this link for you. We're also trying to work, and we've had a few one-on-ones. We'll continue to do that. So any participant in today's session in this Path CPI who's interested in a one-on-one conversation, we'll talk a little bit further in the presentation about how to make that happen. The Intrepid Ascent has been in California for several years. We've participated and supported 6 full person care pilots. And as a collective, we wanted to kind of just really outline who we are and what we represent. We are a dynamic group of individuals coming from both the public health space, technology infrastructure space, health information exchange, payer space. So as a group, we make up 3 departments that work together collectively on both community engagement, technology integrations, large systems integrations, and I say systems, but I don't mean technology, and policy and governance that guides a good chunk of this work that we're doing. So just to give you kind of some names and faces to who is going to be participating in the PATH CPI. You have myself, Denise, just to give you a little history. I've been in healthcare for far too long. I won't tell you how long, but I will tell you that I got my start in clinical practices when carbon claims were still very much a thing. And we used to do them all in handwriting. And that was just the way that business was done. So from there, I moved into the payer space, and I spent the better part of 10 years working for an insurance organization, primarily in maintaining the relationship that it had with community partners and network community partners. And then after that, I moved from the payer space into health information exchange. And I spent just under 10 years working for Rochester Rio, a health information exchange in New York State, where I was the chief engagement officer leading community efforts to engage with partners, both from providing data and receiving data. So really what it meant to be part of that longitudinal view of a person and not a patient, and being able to provide services to the community that we served. Sochem, I'm going to hand the mic to you, but before I do, I'm just going to quickly introduce the rest of the team. We have Danny on the line, Danny Carter. Danny is our executive sponsor for the PATH CPI. We also have Lauren Wood. Lauren is our project lead. She's going to be the one that holds us accountable to all of the different things that we have as far as deliverables. And she's going to also help us make sure that we stay on track with some of the things that we're trying to do as a collaborative, even outside of the formality and some of the logistics and deliverables that we have to PSG and to DHCS. Emily is going to drive this bus. Emily is working on and driving the polls that you see today. You'll also get correspondence from her as we continue to meet. You may see meeting invites, emails, minutes, and other materials shared. All of that is going to be probably coming to you through Emily. So Emily is going to continue to drive this bus, and I'm sure she's going to do a great job at it. But with no further ado, Sochem, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. So hi again, I'm Sochem Lim, and I am a senior clinical consultant with Intrepid. And I am a pharmacist by training, but a lot of my work and expertise for the last decade has been in health IT and data and policy. For this collaborative, I'll be serving as a co-facilitator and a collaborative SME. And you know, I'm really looking forward to learning from all of you and what both your needs and challenges and objectives are as a community and also as individual organizations. Hoping to bring the knowledge and expertise we've learned over the years. Specifically working on whole person care initiatives. We've supported whole person care programs across multiple counties in the state and have learned a lot, and hoping that knowledge and set of learnings could be combined with all of the, you know, we know all of the great work that you've done around sharing data and improving quality of care and addressing social determinants of health, bringing that all together to really continue to make progress, and looking forward to meeting with all of you and learning from you. So thanks again for making the time for us today, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Sochem. We're going to spend a few minutes doing a little bit of a PATH CPI overview. If you want to just go right over into the next slide, Emily, we thought we would try and set the stage. Why are we here today? what are we trying to accomplish as a collective and what we're not. I think that the opportunities that we have are in large part by the number of folks that I see as participants. We're up to 88 participants thus far. And I wanted to take an opportunity to acknowledge some of the folks that we've met already and hope to continue to meet and engage with on a personal level, and also as a collective. So we are coming in and taking over a time slot that Transform Health was able to give us today. Many of you already probably participated in the CalAIM IPP roundtable. So we wanted to just acknowledge all of the amazing work that they've facilitated in this community thus far. And it's not just Transform Health. We've been able to meet with Healthy San Diego, the County 211, the HIE, and the list is going to continue to grow. And so I want to acknowledge all of you for being present today. I think it's really true when we say that it takes a village, but I don't know that every community looks just like San Diego. I think there's a lot of things that probably make this region unique, both in the landscape, but also in the dynamics of you working together. What we've learned thus far is really remarkable. I think the level of engagement and community meetings that have been occurring for many, many years is really astounding. There's communities that I've worked with in the past that have much less infrastructure and ecosystem to support them through any work. And so I know that today I'm taking up an hour and a half of your time. And I know that you're probably already looking at a calendar with more meetings than there is free space. But I really want to acknowledge that we're coming into something that already exists. We want to be really cognizant and aware of that. And we want to leverage that and the work that's already been happening and underway. And we want to use this forum as an opportunity to either lift that up or add supports where you all tell us support is needed. So we are in no way the dictators of this group. We may be the facilitators of this group, but we're going to continue to look to all of you to share the things that you think are important for us to work on and how we can guide and support some of the work that's already been happening in the community for several years. Two other things I'm just going to say before I hand things over to SOCM. We are not only for ECM and CS providers. So there's a lot of confusion around the PATH CPI, who can attend, who can't attend, who should attend, who shouldn't attend. We're going to spend some time on that. We're also going to look at registration and see who's missing at the table and work with you all to make sure that the group is the right group to get the work done. But it's an open forum. We're not excluding individuals from the conversation. So you don't have to be an ECM or CS provider. You don't have to be a managed care plan. And we aren't only going to be talking about funding. Funding is one piece of a larger picture. And so Kim's going to talk a little bit more about that in detail. But it's not the only thing that we're going to be going over and working on together as a collaborative. All right, so Kim, take it away. I feel a little like a game show host.
Well, thanks, Denise. So we did want to spend a little bit of time talking about CalAIM. So if we can just transition to the next slide, Emily, that would be great. We know that there are different levels of knowledge around CalAIM because there's just so many moving parts and different components to it that we wanted to spend a little bit of time just level setting and framing the work that we're going to be doing together. So CalAIM stands for California Advancing Innovating and Innovating Medi-Cal. And it is a multi-year, really robust and really ambitious program that the Department of Healthcare Services aka Medi-Cal, is administering across the state to really transform the Medi-Cal program. And the overarching goal is to really provide equitable, coordinated, and whole person level of care and approaches to improving the lives and health of Californians, specifically the Medi-Cal population, but ultimately the goal is to expand it to all Californians. And so there are a lot of different objectives and initiatives that are incorporated into the CalAIM program. So I'm just going to speak to it at a high level. So Emily, if you can transition to the CPI explainer, that would be great. So we have a couple of resources that we'll continue to share throughout our work together. This is taken from the DHCS website, and it has a nice overview of the CalAIM program, what the objectives are, the goals, and the different components of the program. And so it really has three goals that are encompassed within it. It's, again, really meant to implement a whole person care approach and to incorporate social determinants of health, which which is really the focus around how care is being delivered now. It's just really understanding all aspects of a person's life, which could impact their care. And it's no longer, social determinants of health is no longer sort of a secondary component to providing care to someone. It's really of equal importance. So DHCS is really acknowledging that and putting an emphasis on that. Also improving quality outcomes. So that's, for as long as, as time has existed, quality outcomes has always been a focus, but they're really being thoughtful about how, what infrastructure is needed, what capacity building is needed to improve quality outcomes. And so they're really, trying to walk the talk by implementing CalAIM. And then also standardizing the way information is shared and how care is delivered so that it can be more seamless across organizations and across communities and throughout California, while still providing each community flexibility in how the services are being delivered. There is a population management component to this, and that's a quick way to summarize that is just basically identifying the most vulnerable populations and really starting there, and trying to understand and gather important data and information so that all of the pieces fit together like a puzzle, and so that the clinical providers, service providers, community-based providers can really make informed decisions about how to provide the best services and care for an individual. And that's both identifying with the purpose of identifying what the needs are and preventing situations, crisis situations in some examples, and preventing certain social situations and clinical conditions, so that it can be well informed and so that there could be individual based decision making and population health decision making that could improve care across communities, and then of course to improve wellness as well. We want to dial in a little bit more to the work that we're going to be focusing on. So that's all good and said and done, but we're really, DHCS wants this collaborative to really focus on two key components of CalAIM, which is improving, which is putting in place enhanced care management, which is really about connecting people to the right resources. So there's an emphasis on that. And then also a component called community supports, which brings community-based providers together so that they can be connected to social determinants of health related services. So it's bridging the two types of care together, so it's all seamless and linked in order to provide in order to address the needs of individuals. And so PATH is an initiative within the CalAIM program, and it stands for Providing Access and Transforming Health. Not to be confused with the PATH program in the community, people assisting the homeless. So that, you know, we'll make sure that that's clear when we're addressing the two different types. So we will go into more detail about the different initiatives, but just as a high level for the purpose of today's meeting, there's the incentive payment program that are geared towards the managed care plans to build capacity and infrastructure to support enhanced care management services and community support services. And so the managed care plans are receiving those funds to develop that capacity and infrastructure. And PATH is essentially was essentially established to support everyone else. So for enhanced care management and community supports to be possible and successful, the community-based providers and organizations need support as well. And so that's what PATH is intended for. And so the visual here that we have on the screen shows all of the different initiatives that are focused on supporting the development and implementation of ECM and community supports. And there are 4 initiatives under that set of services. One of them is helping whole person care communities transition from whole person care to CalAIM. And then there's the collaborative planning and implementation, CPI, which is why we're all here. This is the initiative that we're focusing on. And then there's the capacity and infrastructure transition and expansion and development, also known as the CITED initiative. And those funds are intended to help community-based providers who are contracting with the managed care plans to offer ECM and community support so that they can build capacity and infrastructure at the community level to support ECM and community support. Then that's the infrastructure and that's the capacity building. There's also doing the work. So DHCS recognizes that there's support that's needed and technical assistance that's needed. So in next week, there's going to the TA, the Technical Assistance Marketplace, which is a virtual one-stop shop for organizations, will go live for organizations who are seeking technical assistance to be able to implement ECM and community support. So that, you know, all of these different initiatives are designed to really help, again, the on-the-ground partners, community-based providers, to really actually, you know, do the work and be able to offer these services. I'll touch briefly on the Justice Involved Capacity Building initiative. There is a component of PATH that is focused on the justice involved population, and it's very similar to the support and funding that's available for ECM and community supports, but it's focused on that particular population. And there's a collaborative planning component similar to CPI, and also a capacity and infrastructure development component as well. So, so that's a high-level overview. We understand, and we've also heard from San Diego stakeholders that we've talked to so far that that additional information and orientation to the different initiatives, specifically around what funding opportunities are available and who is eligible for those opportunities is going to be really helpful. So we'll spend some time in the next meeting going into that. So this is just a high level overview, and you know, at any point, if you have any questions about the overview and over time, you know, as we go into detail for each of these, please feel free to reach out and let us know. Any questions so far? If there are, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll try to address them. So if we can go to the next slide, Emily, thank you. So just want to speak a little bit about what it's going to look like for us as we approach the different conversations that we're going to have. We're really going to structure our conversations using a quality improvement methodology, specifically the model for improvement. And just a little bit about this methodology for those of you who aren't familiar. The model for improvement has been developed by the Institute for Quality Improvement, is a widely accepted form of methodology that is designed to be really impactful, but also really feasible when it in comparison to other types of research that has been done. This methodology allows us to do sort of rapid cycle tests for change. And what is involved in that is coming together as a group to identify what the aim is, what the goal is, based on what the needs are and what the challenges are. And we'll be using some tools and strategies to do that. And it's designed to really help inform in a very thoughtful and methodical way of how we help you identify as a community based on your specific needs from your organization, what to focus the first set of initiatives on and what the needs are. So we have a structured way of doing this, but it's going to, you know, all the work that we're going to be doing together and the conversations we'll have will really help inform how to move the work forward as a community. So we'll be walking through that. In the first couple of sessions, we'll walk you through the process for developing an aim statement. There's a lot of thinking involved in doing that. And we'll walk this group through it, and then we'll go through what an exercise called the driver diagram, which we'll start getting into the weeds of what the actual needs and challenges are from all of your perspectives. So looking forward to doing that. Any questions about our approach and the model for improvement? Okay, and we'll share more details about what that looks like when we get into the next session.
Just a reminder too, really quick, just a reminder, there was a question in the chat, and I think it has an answer, but just to kind of raise that up for everyone. The question was, is the collaborative planning for justice involved services underway yet? And thank you to James who responded, mentioning that you are looking to get things kicked off in March for the justice work group. And I see that we also had some new folks joining. So for anybody that's joining late, there is a poll everywhere link in the chat, and we'll continue to use that feature as we go throughout the session.
Yes, and thanks, James, for informing the group about the work group, the Justice Involved work group. So very much, I mean, that's what this collaborative is for, is to really, acknowledging that there are groups that are meeting in the community already. Just this collaborative is meant to bring, everyone together and to share information and knowledge. And so, and we're here to help guide conversations and help fill in gaps. And so if there's information that you are willing and would want to share with all of the stakeholders in this collaborative, please do so. We really encourage it and welcome it. And if there's a way that we can help support it, please let us know. Thanks for getting us, for kickstarting that process. Okay. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, there has been some questions about what the different CalAIM initiatives are, what they entail, what they support, who's eligible for them. So I just wanted to list them here real quickly, what they are, and because I'm sure you've heard different information about each of these. We're gonna carve out some time during our next meeting in February to really dig deeper and to hopefully provide some clarification about all of the different initiatives and the flow of the funds and who they go to. So we're going to cover all of that in the next session. So hopefully you'll be able to participate and bring any questions with you if you have any about any of these specifically. If there are any questions, again, feel free to put them in the chat. I don't see any so far, so I'll hand it back over to you, Denise.
Thank you, Sokim. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the next section, but I want to acknowledge it and I want to mention how we'll plan to use these agreements moving forward. The world of virtual meetings is here to stay. And so many of us are familiar with these types of agreements. So for most of you, this isn't something new. I think for me, and go ahead, one more slide. I always like to say, why do these exist? So here's sort of a quick overview of why we think about putting together collaborative agreements. It's really something to sort of acknowledge and get out there and be as transparent as possible about what type of meeting and what type of collaborative we want to have together. So it's really meant to help set expectations for participation and to give us the opportunity to have the best possible experience as we work together. And so one more slide over, we have some core agreements that were shared with us by Health Leads. So I have the link to Health Leads here on the page, but we've taken 5 core agreements that we will use moving forward. In our appendix of the deck today, which you will get after today's session, we have descriptions that support them. We also have some additional agreements, rules of engagement, if you will. I hate rules. I'm not a big rule. I don't even like the word. I know we all live by it, but this really is our meeting. And so to take the time and space to level set that at the beginning of every meeting moving forward is really what we intend to do out of these collaborative agreements. So we've got our top 5. Those are our core agreements. One of the things that we're going to ask you in today's survey is to rate some additional agreements that you think are important to you and that are worth making sure that they are listed as our collaborative agreements moving forward. So we'll start our following sessions with our collaborative agreement page. We won't go through it verbatim every session, but it'll be a reminder to us as we move forward and continue our engagement that these are the things that we want to live by. I'll go ahead one more slide, Emily. General housekeeping. If you haven't already formally registered for the PATH CPI, I know there's a lot of different things happening out there. We'll put the link to the registration in the chat today, but that registration ensures that that you'll be listed in on the participants for the PATH CPI and makes it very clear that you're in on all of the meeting correspondence and any email correspondence that we have. We're doing the best that we can to make sure that as we hear from you, if you haven't already formally registered, that we add you to our list of different participants. But we still encourage you to go through that formal registration process so that you're present and accounted for. Sharing contact information. We want to hear from you guys. You're all going to see each other's faces and names as we continue to meet. We want to also post that contact information link on our webpage as well. So right now today, there's not a whole lot of meat on that page. If you go out there expecting to see a whole bunch of resources, you won't see that today. Moving forward, we'll use that as the opportunity to share information. Today, what's out there is a list of participant organizations. We'd like to also include contact information, meetings, meeting minutes, recordings, any reference materials, and other materials that we work on together as a collaborative that we also feel comfortable publishing on that page together as a collaborative. So we'll talk through some of that as we have our future meetings, but that's the idea around sharing contact information. Really quick, February meeting is tentatively scheduled for the 28th. Ideally, we'd like to propose the 4th Tuesday of every month at 11:30. For whatever reason, if that date doesn't work for you, or if Tuesdays or the last Tuesday of every month doesn't work for you, please let us know that in the chat. We're a really big group, so we're going to do the best that we can to accommodate schedules, but we know that not everybody will be able to attend every session, thus the recording and share out after the fact. The work, we're going to try and leverage existing community meetings. So the ask that I have today is if you are hosting another community meeting, what we would love to do is keep a directory of different community meetings that are occurring. I would wager that a good chunk of you know each other, but for the extent that we have newcomers and other individuals that are trying to work with community partners that they are less familiar with, ideally having a directory of different community meetings and the purpose of those meetings would be really helpful. Ad hoc work groups. We know, again, we're a big group, so we're going to try as much as we can to limit meeting frequency and to leverage existing meetings. But in the in the best interest of everyone involved, we want to lean on the existing ecosystem and not add an additional meeting or series of meetings to your calendar where you're having same or similar conversations. So we're going to try as best as we can to work with you all on that. Last but not least, with regards to the work, is that registration is open. It's going to stay open throughout the whole year. So we wanted to ask if anybody wants to volunteer to be an onboarding buddy. I know it sounds cheesy, but we may be 3 or 4 months in and we have some new folks joining us that we need to bring up to speed. We're going to try our hardest to be that person from them, but sometimes having a person who is a colleague and a member of that ecosystem, it's better than sort of us talking at them to be able to work with another community partner. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, please let us know, and we'll keep that short list handy for new folks who join. We'll go ahead and advance the slide, but just for future reference, we're always going to start a couple of minutes late. We want to give folks the opportunity to transition, and we're always going to try and save time, maybe not this meeting, but we're always going to try and save time moving forward at the end of every meeting for just open dialogue. And we will save that time at the end of every meeting, 15 minutes for open dialogue. Feedback, I mentioned this earlier. We want to hear from you, the good, the bad, the ugly. So we're going to ask you different questions in different formats. We know that everybody's inbox is completely full. We're gonna try our hardest to make things as easy as possible. We know that we sent that survey out a few weeks back. There was some issues completing that survey. So we tried this poll everywhere. It might work better for us, but we'll continue to try different things until we find something that fits. But I will say, to every extent possible, let us know your thoughts and your feedback. Without knowing, we can't improve. So that is really helpful for us as we continue to engage. All right, brainstorming. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of today's session, there's not a lot of meat today. Today is really just about having our first session, getting to know one another, setting the stage for our engagement moving forward. I see some links that aren't working. We'll go ahead and work through those as well. And as we do that, if there's anything that we don't answer today in the chat, all of this will be saved for us, and we'll follow up with you on a personal note after the session today. And go ahead, Emily, advance to the next slide for me.
So apologies for the link issue. We'll send out the correct link after the meeting. And it looks like, oh, Danny, let's see. We'll make sure we send out the right link. Sorry about that. And then there was a question about whether or not we should expect these meetings to go beyond an hour. Denise, do you want to address that?
The meetings are for the collaborative. So it might be nice to hear from you all what you feel is a good time commitment. You know, that the reality is, if we plan to do some work outside of these meetings, then they won't necessarily need to be longer than an hour. But we know that this is a big group and we want to accommodate everyone. And the more time that we have to do that, the easier it is. So maybe what we can do is jot that down and get some feedback from you all on preference. Right now, we have it slated, just so that you all know, as an hour and a half, once a month, at least for these sessions. And again, we'll probably try and continue to work outside of these meetings to leverage some of the work that needs to be done in addition to this session.
Yeah, so if you know, we'll start with an hour and a half, and so please provide feedback on whether or not, based on our conversations, whether you think that's appropriate, and we'll make adjustments. And like Denise was saying, depending on what we uncover when we have the conversations around what the aim will be and what the goals will be for this group, we will identify as appropriate, understanding there are existing work groups in the community already. If we need to set up new work groups, we will. If not, then we won't. So it'll just depend on the conversations that we'll be having over the next couple of months. So, but it'll all be informed by you all in terms of what you think we need. We're here to help support and facilitate. So,
thanks, Kim. A few things before we close. I wanted to sort of talk a little bit about brainstorming. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions. We're going to ask you some additional questions in the survey after today's session. But the first thing that we want to know is how you think the current ECM and CS implementations are going. So a visual here for you as we go into the next slide. If you can rate this on a scale of how well you think the current implementation of ECM and CS services are going. And you'll see a little, I don't know if everybody can see this, a little small, but you'll see some dots show up on the page. It looks like the majority of folks are in those middle three spaces. So somehow, some way, many surveys sort of meet in the middle. But we're going to tease this out a little bit more. So it looks like right now, a vast majority of folks are somewhere in the middle with regard to the current implementation of ECM and CS services. Emily, if you can advance to the next slide for me, please. The next question I'm going to ask is, what are we aiming for? So Kim mentioned this earlier. We're going to use QI methodology to build out something called an aim statement. I know everybody isn't well versed in QI methodology. I would guess that given the number of folks on this call today, that many of you are. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail, but really high level, what are we aiming for is the goal. Our aim statement is our goal. It's going to be the thing that we work towards achieving together as a collaborative. And some of you have spent some time filling out those registrations. We do have, and we are working on the feedback that you've already provided. So for those of you who have completed that survey that we sent out a few weeks back, completed registration, we're going to take that information along with today's feedback, and we're going to display that for all of you in our next session. So the question is, what are 3 factors that this collaborative can focus on that would improve implementation? And the way that this works, hopefully, is that if somebody else is entered in, it should show you the top 3, and you can select if you also agree with something somebody else has already entered. This, by the way, was far too fancy for me. Emily talked me through it. So again, maybe I'm dating myself a little bit, but hopefully this is going to work for us moving forward. I thought it was really cool to see on the page. But it sort of gives you an idea of what everybody's thinking. And again, we're going to collect this information and share it with you after today's session. I'm seeing some things that I've heard about from some of our one-on-ones that we've had already. Some data integrations, shared service, when we talk about data standards, and ECM and CS awareness. And there's some others here as well. I'm not going to list them all today, but like I said, we're going to share these with you after today's session. Emily, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to advance one more slide. I want to get through some general housekeeping before we kick things over to Lisa to go through the IPP roundtable announcements. Lisa, I'm talking a little too much, so I'm going to try and get through some of these so that you have some time to get through those announcements. Again, we're going to send this deck out to you after today's session. So the registration link, the correct registration link is here on the page. It'll go to you in a PDF deck attachment that we will email you today. We'll also have our PATH CPI website. There's been a little bit of a delay in posting information, but we're going to work through that. We want to stay as transparent as possible. So we're going to try and post all of our resources in one place. And we've also started to hear from some of the community partners on some things that they'd like us to work on, which is getting a list of ECM and CS from DHCS. I'm going to shout out to 211, who's been doing a good chunk of work identifying ECM and CS providers in the region thus far. We're going to share that contact list, and we're going to work on a directory of existing community work groups and meetings. All right, next slide. Upcoming communications, it's here for you on the page. I'm not going to read through it. I just want you guys to know it's really important for me to be as transparent with you as possible. I want you to know what to expect from me. So this is going to tell you the next 2 series of upcoming communications. So you know what you're going to get from us first in that first upcoming communication, and you know what you're going to get from us second in that upcoming communication. And all of this will be happening and sent to you pre-February meeting. All right, next slide, please. This is an easy one. I'm going to always end our decks with key takeaways. I don't know, show of hands. I used to get these things after the fact. I'd scroll all the way down to the end of the deck and look at what I needed, if I had an action item, if there was something I was supposed to do. So we're going to try and do our best job possible to list those out at the end of every deck so that you have those key takeaways from today. One I'll call out is if you want to get something scheduled with us one-on-one, you've got my email address. We'll also share that with you because we're going to send an email to everybody who participated in today's session with the deck, the recording, and other materials. All right. Where are we?
Before we get to this next slide, I just wanted to address the question that Kathleen posted in the chat. So in terms of leveraging, we came into this meeting, into this collaborative, knowing that there are many other meetings and work groups taking place. And so we're definitely open to discussion about leveraging existing meetings. Our intent is not to create an unnecessary, another unnecessary space, because we understand that, time is precious. And so we're open to it. We just want to make it clear that we really want to, make sure that we have the space for all of the participants, that we have the right place and forum and time for all of the CPI participants. And if there's another meeting that where that makes sense to have it, then we're 100% in support of that. So open to discussion, and maybe we could use the next session to talk about that a little bit. But thanks for raising that. We completely understand.
And I'll give you a bit of context. This meeting on this day and this time of each month is there, not just for the managed care plans, but for many of our stakeholders. And it seems like it's something that we could leverage rather than creating an entirely new meeting for the community to get used to a new day and time. Of course, I'm only one voice, so I welcome those that are used to our regular San Diego meeting on this day and time. Your thoughts about that as well. But it seems like it could be something that we could use this time slot rather than creating a new time slot.
Thanks for raising that, Kathleen. That makes sense. And if others have thoughts, please feel free to share them. But definitely open to it.
That would be great. It would be great to leverage something we already have in place.
Okay.
So a couple of things that we can do is we can send that out to everybody after the fact, and we can check with all of the folks who are hosts of those meetings just to see where we are as far as overlap. We didn't want to come in and make any general assumptions.
We are the hosts of that meeting.
Okay.
And so, yes, we are inviting you. Again, unless there's any strong objections, I'm seeing some comments in the chat with some of our colleagues that are agreeing with that thought. But you're talking to the attendees and the hosts of that meeting now with some new additions, which I'm happy to see some fresh faces too.
Okay.
This is Kim Fritz from Blue Shield Promise. This month it would be the incentives, which is why Transform Health had the time. The following month will be for the community, and Jack Daly of Legal Aid and myself co-chair that.
So
and it's more of a community forum.
Okay, it sounds like most likely this is going to work. Is the group okay if we just send out, like, maybe Denise, we can talk about how to do it just as a final check-in with the other group before we make a final decision. We want to make sure that all the participants are able to make this time, and it seems like most likely it will, but if we can do our due diligence and just send out a quick poll, is Kathleen and others, are you okay with that?
Yes, I think that'll work.
But
Okay,
it's been in place for, I think, about a year and a half now.
okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yep. Okay, and then Janet, it looks like you have your hand raised. Did you want to say something?
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's Janet from Health Center Partners. You can hear me, yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think that's just a question I had put in an email to a few of the folks, including Intrepid Ascent. Because we do have an even numbered months, the Healthy San Diego Cali meeting, an odd numbered months for 2022 anyway. We had the IPP roundtable meeting, and then we're adding this meeting every month. So I'm just kind of concerned about how to cover the content of there was some overlap on the content and there were updates at every meeting, but there was a little bit of a different focus. So how, just kind of trying to get my head around if we're going to leverage this meeting for all of that content. What does the timing need to be? Do we need to go back to 2 hours? Originally, some of the meetings were 2 hours in length. So I'm just kind of curious about that. So I agree with Kathleen, like, let's leverage what we've got. But as far as the content, I just want to make sure we're not losing anything going forward.
Great, thanks for that. Thanks for the input. And we don't want to lose any of that content either. So that's part of the learning that we have and that we want to be able to support. So as we learn more, we definitely want to build in the content that is already being addressed, and also just, again, just our main purpose is to fill in any gaps. So definitely don't want things to be redundant and inefficient. So so thanks for raising that, Kathleen, and for others for chiming in. So it looks like most likely we'll move forward with this, but let us do a quick check-in and then we'll follow up with next steps.
And I think we have one more question about any updates that we've heard about the timeline for path cited funding announcements.
Yes,
So can we- Yep.
yeah, that's right. So the cited funding announcements are going to be there are going to be 2 announcements. So they're going to be those who applied during the first round have been their applications have been reviewed, and DHCS won't be looking at other applications, but they're going to make 2 announcements. And I have to double check the dates, but I believe one is next week, and then there's going to be another announcement in February, but it's based on the original applicant pool in round 1. And then the second round is going to be, it's going to start in March, I believe. So I'll send out, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll send out specific dates as follow-up.
Great, we'll include that in our email that we push out that later with the additional materials from today's meeting. We landed here on this page of the survey feedback. We've got some granular questions. This survey will stay open. So Emily's going to advance things over and I'm going to hand things to Lisa from Transform. So this survey will stay open for some time. You don't have to fill it out now. You certainly can. I always say if you don't fill it out, we'll fill it out for you, especially since one of the questions is, how well did you think the facilitator did today? All right, I got a joke. It's Friday, folks. I don't know. I'm only seeing a couple of people on screen. We're gonna have to try and keep things up and stay as interactive as possible. Remember, on February's meeting, we're going to vote on the best virtual background. All right, we're going to hand things over now to Lisa. Lisa, let me know if for whatever reason you cannot take over and share screen.
Thank you for checking in. I cannot share screen, so
Okay.
if I can be given permission, that'd be great. And while that's happening, I'll turn it over to Jim for any welcome and opening remarks for this part of the presentation.
Sorry, I had to come off double mute. I apologize. No, just wanted to welcome everybody to this transitional meeting. We realize there may be some hiccups along the way. But we intend to continue the work that we were all doing with Lisa and her team with our new friends here at Intrepid Ascent. So just welcome everybody and looking forward to continuing this work.
Thank you, Jim. And it really has been an absolute pleasure working with everybody over the past year. Many of you are in the midst of the incentive payment program first round. We have a few updates on where we're at in terms of that round, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So just by quick way of reminder, these were all the activities that were completed to date in 2022. A lot of activities around building up IPP infrastructure. We developed a single application for everyone to use, as well as a single reporting structure, regardless of plan. Thank you very much for all the feedback that everybody has given us along the way, and we hope to be able to continue to keep up all that great work. And so where are we now? On the screen is what we're anticipating for this next year. Many of you have submitted your second quarterly report. Thank you very much for that. We really do appreciate you keeping us up to date in terms of where things are at, in terms of your infrastructure and capacity build. We do want to know if you run into any hiccups, any challenges. We will be reviewing those progress reports, and we did have one provider who was ready to complete and submit a final report. And so we'll be reviewing that in February and doing any additional outreach if we have questions. We anticipate for those who are not yet ready to finish up and close out their IPP grant award, we anticipate another progress report round in April. What you can expect is something very similar to what you experienced in January and December. We're trying to streamline the process and make things more and more efficient. And so we hope that this last round of changes has created and made the whole experience a lot easier. And we do anticipate most awardees will be done by this June 30th. And most awardees will be submitting final reports. If any awardee has complete milestone completion dates beyond June 30th, we're going to handle those on an individual basis. We're trying to close up the first round by June 30th because we're anticipating a potential second round. And so all final reports received in June will be reviewed in July, and that hopefully will close out the first round for many of you. And in terms of next steps for awardees, we really do appreciate that you've submitted your progress reports. We're in the midst of reviewing those submissions. One change that we're going to make on starting this year, we're going to accept for some of you, you may be done in February when we don't have a reporting round scheduled. And so if you are ready to close out earlier, we're going to allow early closeout of those IPP grant awards. That way you can receive the final tranche of payment as soon as you're able to complete your IPP application build. And so we're going to accept final reports on a rolling basis moving forward. Once you've completed all of your project milestones, please email us at the San Diego CalAIM Roundtable at transformhc.com inbox. We're gonna, when we get an email from you indicating that you're ready to close out, we'll share the next steps for submitting your final report, including your submission link. We don't want you to have to wait till progress reporting round. We know that these funds are absolutely critical and important to building capacity locally, and we want to make sure that you receive those funds as soon as possible. So if you have any questions at all, if you want to close out early, do not be shy, reach out to us anytime. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Okay. So it looks like Brianna has a question. If you aren't receiving IPP payments currently, when can you apply? Brianna, that's an excellent question. We are still in the midst of the first round, and the second round has not opened up yet. And so you'll need to wait for the next round of IPP grant awards to be able to apply for the next round of funding. You may be able to reach out to your plan partners if you'd like to begin the conversation early. We highly encourage you to stay in close contact with your plan partners and share any challenges in terms of infrastructure and capacity building that you have so that you're able to be looped in. And I see Agnes has another question about what is IPP. Appreciate that there are some new participants in this meeting. And Agnes, that's absolutely a great question. IPP stands for the Incentive Payment Program. The San Diego Medi-Cal Managed Care Plans are able to put together participate in this program where if they meet milestones established by the state will give them dollars to invest in providers and in community. And so the plans have worked with our firm, Transform Health, to build the incentive payment program. We have one standardized application form across all of the plans participating in San Diego County, as well as standardized reporting across all the plans. This is a program that individual providers who are interested in being ECM or CS providers or are currently ECM and CS providers can receive grant dollars in 4 domains. You can receive money for infrastructure build, things like maybe you need a care management platform or a closed loop referral platform. You can request dollars for that need. You can also request dollars for building up your capacity as an ECM provider, things like supporting the hiring, training, and recruitment of your ECM staff. Same applies for the community support side if you're a community support provider. And lastly, there is a domain around quality improvement. And we have seen plans invest dollars in provider organizations to help address and improve quality scores. So it is wide ranging. We're anticipating potentially another round sometime middle of this year. And so the way we think of the IPP program is these are dollars where plans can make investments in the community and in providers serving the community. It is a sister program to the Path Cited program, where providers can also apply directly to the state for similar funding. However, you cannot, we have to be careful that there is no duplication of funds. And so if you've received funding from the plans, you can't receive funding from the state and vice versa. But as a provider, you'll have access to either programs. And hopefully you'll be able to receive the funding that you need to complete your infrastructure and capacity build. And it looks like, Agnes, thank you for that follow-up question. How are you or this related to CACHI on the ACH funding? This is not related to CACHI or the ACH funding at all. That is a separate, discrete source of funds. And Mary has a great question. Is there a website where awarded programs and funds can be viewed? We have shared some of the funding awards, like in the aggregate, on our San Diego CalAIM website. And so Mary, if you're interested, we can send you the link to that presentation. And I am going to also drop in the chat the San Diego CalAIM roundtable in just that website link in just a minute. All right.
Thank you for that, Lisa.
No problem. And not seeing any additional questions, We do want to share this contact card in case there are any IPP questions, or for ECM and CS providers, if you're trying to connect with different plan partners for different needs. We always provide this contact card in case you need to connect directly with somebody in the plan that you're working with. So we're happy to also share this slide as well. We also post all the slides on the San Diego County Roundtable website. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Denise. Thank you very much for giving us a little bit of time today.
Well, thanks. Thanks all the way around, Lisa. I really appreciate it and letting us leverage the meeting that you already had scheduled for today. So with that, I don't think we had anything else that we wanted to cover today that was of dire importance, but if there's anything in the chat, we'll stay on until 1 p.m., which is another 9 minutes. I'll at least stay on the line. But if anybody has any additional questions or wants to come off of mute and have a conversation about anything, please, we can use this time to do that. Otherwise, we'll give you 9 minutes to transition to probably your next meeting. But don't forget to fill out that survey.
Thank you all very much for your time. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Emily, for making all of this happen. Yeah, we'll have to ask how folks thought the polling was.
The polling, this is Jen Tudor with the County of San Diego. I thought the polling was great, and I've seen the word clouds, but I haven't seen the second thing you did where you put something in and then you could click on and support someone else's. What's that called?
It's part of that same platform, which is called Poll Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Emily, why didn't you come off of mic real quick? You're the one that got that happening for us.
Yeah, so it's called question and answer. Basically, it's another activity that they have. You can use these for free from their website. I definitely recommend them. And then integrate it right into your PowerPoint or Google Slides. They make it really easy. But yeah, so and they have tons of different styles of questions. There are a few like where you can have a map presented and you can see where people are located. There's lots of build your own. But yeah, that was called question and answer, where people would just answer the question and then could rank or vote on the ones that they liked after they had answered.
That was terrific. We've used Poll Everywhere in the word cloud, but I really like that. So thank you. Yeah, I put my comment in the chat, but I thought it was a great interactive session and so nice and welcoming for so many folks and so many new participants. That was really, really nice.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to any other feedback that this group has. Where we're always striving to be the most effective and supportive. So please continue to share with us. It only helps us get better.
We'll take the negative feedback too, Jennifer. We're not scared of constructive feedback.
Oh, everyone knows, like I see Judith still on. Judith knows, and so does Janet. I'll give you exactly how I'm feeling. Happy to be part of the solution, but I'll be honest.
Hey, that's wonderful. I appreciate that. I may even pick on you then a little bit in the future and make sure that you're feeling like we're on track.
Please do. Please do. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. We still have a few folks on the line. If anybody has any questions or wants to take themselves off of mute to ask the question, please feel free to do so. I can't guarantee that we'll have an answer, but you can certainly ask the question. I'm starting to wonder, so Kim, if the folks on the line are multitasking.
I'm thinking you might be right because like Janet will always talk. So
I'm
will
not,
Judith. Are you here?
I'm here, Jan, this is Janet. I'm typing a private message to Denise.
Oh, I'm like, I know you would always speak up just like me.
Yep.
There's
There's a
secrets.
few of us that you can count on.
Secret
Yeah.
message.
That's
I
a
love it.
check to see if people are still paying attention is to throw their name out there and if they respond.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Have a good weekend.
Chris is laughing. I love those smiley face emojis. I didn't even know that we could do them in Zoom.
Oh, the reactions.
Yes, I haven't even started messing with those yet. See, I'm behind the times.
Oh, and look, you can say yes, no, slow down, speed up, and
Oh, we
I'm
might
away
need
getting
that.
coffee. Oh, that's cool.
We might need that for sure.
Okay, I am gonna stop recording.
Thank you so